How to Stay Invisible, Chapter 26. The next day, Mr. and Mrs. Adams came from Commerce to meet Raymond. Their first names were Alice and Thomas. They seemed nice, not at all like the guardians at the children's home. They looked young, except that Mr. Adams had a gray streak running through his hair. They told Raymond that they'd never had any children of their own, despite trying for years. But they had fostered 2 kids before who had become as good as theirs. They showed Raymond a family album full of pictures of holidays, vacations, graduations, and birthday parties. "We told them about you," said Mr. Adams, "and they can't wait to meet you. Said they would drive in this weekend if you're ready." Raymond nodded, looking at the photos. "Mary is in college now, but James lives just 5 minutes away from us with his family," Mrs. Adams said, pointing to the 2 small twin boys in one of the pictures. "That's Henry and that's Charlie. I still say we're too young to be grandparents, but look at us now." Raymond looked at the pictures of the smiling faces and tried to imagine himself in the photos. It was hard to do. Everyone looked so happy. Raymond had never known a family to look like that. There were no photo albums at the children's home. His parents didn't have any photo albums either. It was hard to imagine being anywhere but on his own with Rosie. "I'm excited to meet your dog," Mr. Adams said, and he looked genuinely enthusiastic. "It's been a long time since we've had any 4-legged friends." "Yeah," said Raymond quietly. "She likes Stiggs better than me most of the time, but she'll probably love you." He gave a nervous smile, but then he realized that Adams probably didn't know who Stiggs was. "Sorry." Mrs. Adams put her hand on his arm. "Don't apologize, sweetie. We know this is going to be hard. It'll be an adjustment for all of us. But we want you to know that we are so happy that you'll be coming to stay with us," Mr. Adams said. "We'll get it sorted out together." Raymond noticed that when either of them spoke to him, they looked him right in the eye, something his parents had never done. They told Raymond that they would be enrolling him in a middle school in Commerce, but he could wait until he was healed and ready to return. Raymond hated the thought of another new school, but he nodded politely and tried to smile. When they left, they promised to be back the next day, and Raymond was sorry to see them go. That evening, after everyone had gone home, Raymond lay awake in his bed, listening to the beeps and murmurs in the hospital wing outside his room. This was the longest he had been stuck inside since living in the children's home. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and exhaled slowly. Raymond remembered watching a sitcom on television when he was little. It was about a family with a bunch of kids. They ate their meals at the table and they argued about the silliest things, like who was supposed to take the trash out or who got to use the telephone at night. Raymond wondered if living with the Adamses would be like that, except without the other kids. He wondered if they would eat their meals together at a table. He wondered if he would be able to go to the woods sometimes if he wanted to. Mostly, he wondered how he would fit into the Adamses' lives. This was the most nervous Raymond had ever been. He took another deep breath and closed his eyes. He could live in the middle of the woods in the middle of winter. He could feed himself, keep himself warm, take care of Rosie. But this was downright scary. And even though Raymond was scared, of what his future would hold, he couldn't help but feel a little hopeful too. Lexi and Harlan came to see Raymond every day that he was in the hospital. Sometimes they came on their own, but mostly they came together. Harlan filled Raymond in on his plans for the spring talent show. Apparently, Harlan's dance moves had drawn enough attention from a group of 8th grade girls that they had asked him to help with their talent show routine. Harlan had humbly obliged. I heard Joseph and a few other boys have decided to enter the show as well now that cross country is over, Lexi told Raymond. I think they are dancing too. Harlan's face fell, so Lexi quickly added, don't worry, Harlan. You saw them at the dance. They're nothing special. Harlan sighed and then shook his shoulders out like he was shaking off a heavy coat. Just means I'll have to step up my game, is all, he said. Cross country, Raymond said suddenly. I missed your meet. I feel awful, Lexi. How did you do? I came in second to last, she said, shrugging. Maybe next year I'll try out for volleyball or something else that doesn't involve running. Next year. Raymond wouldn't be there next year. He would be at a different middle school, one that felt very, very far away from Lexi and Harlan. When the nurse came in to tell them visiting hours were over, Harlan said goodbye and moonwalked out the door. Raymond laughed and waved goodbye to his friends. It's only one town over, Lexi reminded him again before she left. I know, he said, but it felt so much farther. The next day, Stiggs brought Raymond a copy of the local newspaper. Raymond read the article over and over and practically had it memorized. Harlan thumbed through it later. The headline read, Abandoned Boy Survives in Woods Behind Middle School. The picture below it was of the hollowed tree. It looked like someone had built a fire, Raymond guessed, to make it a more appealing photo. The article talked about Raymond's parents, still unfound. And there was a quote from Joseph about Raymond always keeping to himself, even though he had tried to be his friend. Harlan rolled his eyes. Yeah, right. Like Joseph ever tried to be your friend? It was obvious that Harlan was way more than a little upset that nobody had interviewed him about Raymond. I would have set them straight, he mumbled. Mostly, the article was about the school's accountability. How, the article asked, did nobody notice Raymond's living situation for almost 3 months of the school year? Raymond felt bad for Mrs. Harding, who was called out by name in the article. It wasn't her fault. Raymond wished that he could tell her that. He cut out the picture from the newspaper and threw away the rest. He tucked it into his duffel bag for safekeeping. Mr. and Mrs. Adams came every day to visit Raymond in the hospital, and on Friday, they came to take him home. They promised Raymond that he could visit River Mill as much as he wanted. Mr. Adams explained that his business was opening up a new tractor supply store in town, so he would be traveling back and forth a lot over the next year anyway. He told Raymond he could use the company on the car rides. He's not much of a loner, Mrs. Adams said as she helped Raymond to their car. He'll probably drive you crazy. Raymond gave a nervous laugh. Mr. Adams said, she's kidding, mostly. But I do want you to give me some pointers on fishing. Your friend Stiggs says you are quite the fisherman. Raymond had said goodbye to Stiggs the day before. Stiggs had snuck Rosie into the hospital and cursed the nurse when she tried to make them leave. That was the hardest goodbye that Raymond had made. His throat tightened as he thought about it. I'd like to see you try and take her from me, Stiggs said to someone in the hall as he shuffled into Raymond's hospital room. Rosie jumped on the bed and licked Raymond's face until it was covered in dog slobber. Rosie, he said and laughed. Good girl, Rosie. She's been a mess. Like to worry me to death wanting to see you. I'll be glad for a little peace and quiet for a while, Stiggs said, but his eyes were heavy, and Raymond could see a sadness in them. Thank you, Raymond offered. Stiggs shuffled uncomfortably. Nah, thank you, kid. I only wished I could have done more for you. You did plenty, Raymond said. And then he looked the old man square in the eyes. You saved us. Stiggs smiled, and Raymond recognized the look Stiggs was giving him. It was a mixture of sadness, grief, and like he was still holding out hope for something. Stiggs opened his mouth to say something, but then he shut it again, changing his mind. When he finally did speak, it was about Hank. I buried your friend on a high bank near our regular spot, he said. It's clear and sunny and overlooks the river. I think you'd like it. Raymond knew one day he would be able to think of Hank and smile, but right now, all he felt was sorrow. Stiggs said he talked with Mr. and Mrs. Adams about Raymond maybe coming down to go fishing every once in a while. That would be great, Raymond said. That way, I can see this old girl too, Stiggs said, rubbing Rosie's back. Will you tell Miss Marcus I said goodbye? Raymond asked. He hadn't been able to talk to her after the last time, and he didn't know if he would ever see her again. Something shifted on Stiggs's face, and he nodded. She's coming by later for dinner, so I expect I can tell her then. When it was time for Stiggs to go, he patted Rosie's head and gave Raymond a little wave, leaving without saying goodbye. Raymond knew he meant to, though, and he knew he would see the old man again. Now, Raymond paused before getting into the car. It felt good to be outside again. His leg was still stiff, but it was getting better. He had been walking on it a little each day with the help of his nurses and friends. Come on, girl, he said to Rosie, who jumped in the back seat. Raymond took a deep breath and then got in and buckled up. The hospital was on the opposite side of town, but when they drove over the bridge heading to Commerce, Raymond could see the river from his window. He thought of his camp in the hollow, lying abandoned once again in the woods. He thought of Hank, and a lump swelled in his throat. He wished he could have thanked the coyote. Goodbye, Hank, he whispered. I'm hungry, Mr. Adams said from the front seat. Raymond swallowed hard and wiped a final tear from his face. Rosie licked his cheek. You're always hungry, Mrs. Adams said and laughed. I'll get dinner ready as soon as we get home. She glanced at Raymond in the back seat. I hope you like spaghetti. Raymond let out a little laugh. In that moment, he felt hope creep up inside him again. Maybe the Adamses would be people he could count on. Maybe everything was going to work out. For the first time in a very long time, Raymond didn't want to be invisible anymore. For the first time, in a very long time. Raymond wanted